So I want to first talk about the establishment of the core wound. This is an important part of our understanding for this work. There are a number of theories, models of how infants turn into people with personalities, really establish identity. The one that I find to be the most relevant and helpful presentation is one that Margaret Mahler put forth with some others to talk about how babies are born in what was coined a dual unity. And the dual unity is a nice play on words. To the baby, it's all unity. To the caregivers, they're predominantly going to be living in duality and separation of self and other. And so the baby is born with this connection with the absolute, particularly the love and presence. The baby feels a oneness. It doesn't know how to differentiate, to say what's me and what's not me. But as we get older, as we're infants and get older, we begin to see the needs are inside this body. I'm hungry, I need changing, I need affection, whatever it is. And the solution is not coming from within. The solution only comes from outside, from caregivers. So that begins one of the primary identifications we have, which is with the body boundary, or the edge of our body. And it's a really core identity. And the reason at some point we do end up working it on the spiritual path, and it's challenging to work because it's established at a time when we're not verbal. So we can't use language to work the identification with the body or body boundary, which is why this kind of work is trickier. The work we're going to do today is a little trickier because some of these understandings were established before we had the ability to verbalize or really even to think in concept. So as the baby ages, becoming more of a toddler, there comes a point for each of us when we really get the acute message that I need to invest in these caregivers. If I don't make sure they're paying attention to me and think favorably of me, this could be really bad. I could end up becoming, I don't know if we think we'll become ill, but we do know that we're not going to survive. So our survival instinct gets tied into our identity and our establishing good relationships or workable relationships with the caregivers. Now, virtually nobody got perfect parenting. I'm a parent and a grandparent, and I can certainly say that I was not a perfect parent nor a grandparent, because it isn't possible. Being a human with our own issues and lives, we can't be attentive completely to the children, the infants in our lives. It just isn't possible. And so we're always going to do our best, but it's never going to be perfect. So the infant is going to take in and hold some of these different experiences that they have. And the infant, as they're beginning to recognize that sense of self and that need for the other and the survival, there's an election. We decide to turn away from the unity with the absolute, with presence, the here-ness, the now-ness of presence, and we invest in these humans. They become, in effect, like godlike creatures because they control all of our life. We know that we don't survive if they stop caring about us or stop attending to us. So there's a real investment. But in this turn away from the absolute, in severing that connection in whole or part, interestingly, virtually all of the infants blame themselves. And for most of us, if not all of us, it begins a story of what I call the core wound. I didn't come up with that term, but I use that in my teaching. And the core wound is the belief that our separation from the absolute, from birth, when we turned away from the absolute, we take it as we were rejected. The absolute found something faulty in me, something broken, something so damaged or lacking that there's just no point for the absolute to even engage. So it leaves us with a sense of deep worthlessness, valuelessness. And that becomes, in some fashion, our core wound. And now, not all of us have the same story around the core wound. It shows up in different ways. There's some individuation and there's some grouping that goes on around it. But the point is that we all have a story, a belief, a conviction that something in me or me is irredeemably broken. It's something that's broken and can't be fixed ever. And so we get the idea, well, I need to not show this. If I show this to the caregivers, they're going to stop taking care of me and I'm going to die. So we begin a pattern of hiding the core wound, not only from everyone else, but also from ourselves. We don't want to be reminded of that because it's true and it's unfixable. And so we develop a personality, and part of the personality's function is to communicate to ourselves in the world that we're actually really competent and we're really able to do these certain things really well. And so because of that, we end up trying to keep ourselves and everyone else distracted from touching into or seeing the core wound. And in our work, in the spiritual work, along the progression of awakening, deep in the awakening process, there comes a time when we each need to work with the core wound. We need to work with that belief, the worthlessness, the valuelessness. And we can start to do that by working with some of the less potent expressions of the core wound. And these are ones today we're going to focus on: insecurity and weakness. These are qualities that can relate to the core wound, and these are qualities that we would prefer not to contact. So we have lots of distractions in our lives. Most of our entertainment, our social media, our lives are really geared to keep us distracted and away from touching the core wound and staying in the personality and our successfulness, or whatever our version and story is. That's what we try to stay with. And so here today, we're going to turn and begin to touch into these qualities, and we'll do it very gently. And we never want to dive into the deep end here. We always want to approach very carefully and thoughtfully. We want to make contact with whatever we're practicing with, and we want to get close enough so that it's a little bit uncomfortable. We want it to be where it's a little bit unpleasant. We don't want to get so close that it's overwhelming. We don't want to start shutting down. That's not helpful. But if we can feel a little of that energetic turmoil, and particularly we'll be working with the solar plexus area, which is between the hara and the heart chakras at the bottom of the sternum, where the bones stop in the center of your chest. Right in there is the solar plexus. And for a lot of folks, this is where we keep a lot of the stories and experiences of the core wound. There's more there than that, but that is often where the core wound abides in our body. Let me pause here and see if there's any questions on anything I've shared so far. On the path of getting to know the core wound, if we're going to fully engage it, we will need to get to the bottom story, the foundational story. And the foundational story can be something like, I'm bad, I'm broken, I'm unlovable. Some version there's many, many versions, but we will get to whatever ours is. And that becomes our practice point with it. But we start by attending to the streams that run off of the main river of the core wound. And like working with weakness and insecurity, this is a small stream coming off of the major river. So we're not going to get to the major river today, probably. We're just going to work with one of the small streams. But we keep working these streams because it both frees up energy that becomes part of our meditative energy, and it relaxes and releases us because we have a kind of holding, a contraction in some of these areas. And so we're not letting energy flow in those areas. We're like shutting off parts of our interiority. And so this becomes an important process. Yeah, we turn away because we feel that we need to invest in the caregivers, that because they control our very life, that we need to make sure they're taking care of us. And so we realize that we have to let go of the absolute or break that relationship. Not everybody severs it completely, but a lot of people do. Some people maintain some contact, but that's the minority, not the majority. And so this is what propels us to start. And also, it's needed for us to individuate. How do we show up differently than everybody else in the world? This is all part of that process. The practice tip would be to work with whatever's here. If it gets to be the core wound, it's going to be thematic, meaning say it's that I'm bad. You'll work the issue, and then you'll start having more memories and experiences of where it proves you were bad, or why it was important for you to hold yourself out to the world as bad. So, but when you start working it, eventually you will know it's the core wound, because you will feel like I'm at the mother lode, I'm at the source after you're working it a bit. And also the story, the I'm bad, I'm broken, I'm unlovable, will be really strong. So, but anyway, that's not to worry about now. You'll recognize it when you get there. How come you were abandoned? What was your broken? Okay, yeah, broken can be a core wound, but typically it's not just broken; it's unfixably broken. You know, it's like the vase you drop and there's 1,000 pieces. I can't possibly put this back together. Yeah, so stay with that. Stay with broken with a question mark today. And again, this isn't a place to get into the superego and shame or guilt. You want to just be honest. If you felt like you were broken and that's why you were abandoned, because the child has to rationalize the adult's behavior. It can't be the adult's fault. So it has to be your fault. Well, we're going to orient to the weakness and insecurity. And as you're doing that, just hold very quietly in the back, broken. That the weakness and the insecurity are reflections of being broken. We're going to feel into the solar plexus and just make whatever contact, light contact we can. Yeah. We'll give it a try and let's see how that lands. Okay, so go ahead and seat yourself in your meditation posture. Starting with the centering belly breaths. Relaxing into this moment, letting your awareness fully arrive here. Start by accepting whatever's in your experience or perception in your body or mind, accepting whatever's happening in your environment, any noises, any other distractions, just accept them as being here. Feel your contact with your seat and with the floor of the building you're in. Be open to the safety and security, the holding. to protection. Start by inviting awareness to the hara. Again, 2 or 3 finger breaths beneath the navel, and 2 or 3 finger breaths in from the surface of the skin. Just feel into the hara, feel the seatedness, feel whatever spaciousness may be here for you. Feel that stability of the hara, a grounded seatedness, a here-ness. Some of you were in touch with the vastness of the hara. It's appearing for some as a black space, a vast voidness, extending without limit, edge, or boundary. There's a quality of stillness in our field here, too, that some of you are experiencing. Sometimes we can recognize the stillness when we hear the nada, the ringing in the ears. All sound and silence are painted on the canvas of stillness. Others of you are in touch with the brightness, that purity that accepts everything it meets and reveals the purity in all that it meets. Invite awareness to the solar plexus, which is just below the heart chakra. Again, just below the sternum or the bone of the rib cage, in the center of your chest. As you contact it with awareness, you may feel a kind of tenderness. For some people, this can feel like a soreness. For some people, it's hard, like a rubber ball. For others, it can appear like glass, hard, smooth. Just meet the experience of the solar plexus as it is. See if you can breathe into the solar plexus, just bringing some tender curiosity, a little bit of wonder. I'm just curious what this is. So holding the solar plexus, just let awareness very softly and gently contact the solar plexus, allowing for any feelings or reactions that arise. Sometimes we can feel a quality of fear or anxiety that can show up with a sense of ice water in our arms and or legs. We can feel frozen. There can be a slight panic when we contact the solar plexus, a rush of energy or adrenaline in the head, self talk like, we got to get out of here, I shouldn't be here. And just accept that too, as we stay gently abiding with the solar plexus. Whatever is your experience is fine. Meet it gently and slowly open awareness to what's here for you. A few of you are in contact with a kind of neutrality. There's not much sensation at all. Stay with the not much sensation. That is the sensation. So if you stay with that, with attention and gentleness, it will begin to soften and reveal more of what's being held in the solar plexus. We're going to be orienting towards weakness in this contact. And weakness is that felt sense, that body sense. Like you can't lift an arm. You couldn't stand up if you had to. There's just no strength at all in your body. There's very little will to take action. It's kind of a tone of defeat or giving up. I can't do it. I'm too weak. I'm too little. I'm too something. Recall a memory, either recent or from when you were young, at a time when you felt this weakness, this experience like you can't feel bones in your body. You're just a pile of meat. You couldn't lift an arm or a leg. You barely have the will to breathe. And just feel into this weakness. Bring your curiosity. We're the modern scientists of the inner mind. And we come with curiosity, with not knowing, with trust in the teacher, teaching, and self. Just be with whatever's here and don't get any closer than is mildly uncomfortable. If it gets too strong, then just back away. Move back to the surface. Part of what we do when we Get a little close as we begin to tap off the energy, the warning energy that we've left here before. We're letting that energy become part of our spiritual journey, fuel for that fire. If you're feeling the heaviness in your arms and legs, what feels like ice water in your veins, let yourself just feel that fully. The weakness of this body, how little you are. No one can expect you to do it. You're not big enough. You don't know how. You don't have the strength. Just stay with the weakness. Don't go into definitions. Don't go into name calling. Just stay with the weakness. This is the truth of how you are feeling. Along with weakness can come collapse, like a stringed puppet with all the strings cut. We just feel we're going to collapse in a heap. If you're in touch with collapse, just feel that in your body. Let your body assume the position of weakness and collapse. As your shoulders roll in, your head drops, your arms may fall at your sides. It's all you can do to stay in your seat. Really feel the weakness without avoidance or management. We're just staying with weakness right now. We're staying with the vulnerability. So if it gets a little comfortable for you, then move a little deeper into the discomfort. And again, just a little. As soon as you feel that energy in your solar plexus, then just pause and abide where you are. Tapping off that energy, being curious about weakness, lack of strength, collapse. If you're ready, go a little deeper into the weakness, a little further into collapse. Don't let yourself get overwhelmed. If it's too much energy, then back off or turn to the heart. Make contact with karuna. When we meet suffering in our life, what we call dukkha, by being with it sincerely, it opens us to compassion, tender, loving holding. So when you feel the support of karuna, then again, try and go another step deeper into the solar plexus, into the energy of weakness. Just let all the stories and memories arise relating to weakness. You don't have to play all the memories or engage them, just let them be here, like clouds in the sky. If you're ready, then go a little deeper into the energy of the solar plexus, into weakness, the inability, the sense of physical failure. Keep upekkha, equanimity here by accepting whatever's happening in your experience. When we accept, it doesn't mean we're approving. It may be challenging, but we're willing to abide here temporarily. So let yourself relax and open, feeling as authentically as possible your weakness. Just maintain contact with the energy, the perception of weakness in the solar plexus just below the rib cage, the sternum. Just letting awareness continue to penetrate the energy of the solar plexus, to stay in direct contact with your story, your history of weakness, lacking strength, inability to do anything, and the risk of being seen as a failure. Should the contact with the solar plexus get to be too much, just back away, return to the heart chakra to touch into innate goodness, to touch into self compassion and acceptance of equanimity. And then when you feel ready, return to the solar plexus. Notice the smoothness that's in our field. This is an indication of peace, of the absolute. This is the peace that, as the Bible says, the peace that passes all understanding. It's a non-conceptual peace. And when it meets activity, it calms and soothes. Just be aware that's part of our field today. If contact with the solar plexus gets to be a little too much, you can take a step back into the peace, the ease and smoothness of peace. Notice the stillness that's here, a rich, deep, profound stillness that comes before all sound and all silence. If you're ready, drop a little deeper into the solar plexus, into the energy of your perception of yourself as weak. Stay with the weakness. Keep coming back and abiding in weakness. Stay with the weakness. Whenever it feels a bit comfortable, then take another half step forward into the energy, into the knowing that you are a weak person, a weak being. Feel how convinced you are of that fact. It's reality that cannot be disputed. Notice the energy may be lightening. The quality of lightness may be entering into your experience. An uplifting lightness. As you feel into your solar plexus, also let awareness contact the hara. Feel them both together. Feel that deep groundedness in the hara, the deep seatedness. You may feel like you have a deep connection into Mother Earth, securing you, stabilizing you. Feel that deep connection. Feel the knowing that you've always been connected. You've always been in direct contact with the truths of the Absolute. Sense into the stability, to the here-ness of the presence, the here-ness of the Absolute. Some people feel it like a floor, a solid, immovable ground. For others, it appears like a wall that we can sit against, our back supported by this strong, massive wall we call the Absolute. So take in the strength, the stability, the grounding of the presence of the Absolute here. Notice that it's not something you're generating. You're not making it. You're not continuing it. It's outside your control. And whenever the weakness arises, just be with the weakness. And you'll see, as you are, and as you accept the weakness, you'll drop into the stability, the grounding, the floor, the support of the Absolute. We're going to sit in silence together, contacting weakness as it appears, resting in the Absolute support when it's present for you, until I ring the bell.